Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the ShopNotes podcast. I'm your host, Phil Huber. Today is episode number 58 already, if you can believe that. Today, I'm joined by Logan and John, as always. And on today's episode, we're going to do a little finish your project checkup, see where we are on our dated projects, as well as some of the other things that are going on here at Woodsmith. Thanks for listening.
This episode of the ShopNotes podcast is brought to you by Woodsmith Magazine. Woodsmith Magazine has been the trusted source for all your woodworking information for over 40 years. From tips and techniques to furniture projects to shop projects, you'll find it all at Woodsmith Magazine. Subscribe today at woodsmith.com.
Okay, now technically, this podcast airs on February the 19th, which is Finish Your Project Eve.
Yep.
So I thought we'd do a kind of a check-in to see where we are, since we're coming up on the deadline, with a little bit of a surprise, because when we first started talking about this, it was just you and I, Logan.
Mm-hmm.
It was.
John had successfully evaded the question.
Right. I'm always afraid to make commitments because stuff comes up.
Right.
So, But I jumped in late, working on my cabinet, cabinet that goes out. I don't know what you call it. It's a cabinet that goes outside the bathroom. Hold your linens and Q-tips.
There you go.
Whatnot.
Linen cabinet, that works.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Sounds professional.
For some reason, I had it in my head that it wasn't a built-in, and I don't know why I had that, but it is a...
It's built in the fact that it's screwed to the wall.
Right. Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like when you guys move, it's not like taking it with you.
Right. Well, I could.
Yeah.
Because that was when I was starting on this and my wife really being keen on moving soon. It's like, I'm doing all this work for whoever the next person that lives here is. Do I just take this thing down off the wall and just patch up the wall and we're done? Save all the work. Right. But it's like, no, I've gotten this far. Let's just finish it and pass it down, because maybe we'll never move. I mean, we've been saying that for a while now, so we'll see. But so I've been hitting that hard the last week or two and coming down the home stretch. So I think I
thought it looked really cool.
Yeah. So I had the actual cabinet up for, I don't know, a couple of years. We were discussing this. We don't remember how long. It's kind of been a while, but that was up and had shelves in there on one side. And so the last couple of weeks I made the drawers and I got those installed. And that was an interesting process because I had bought like the 16-inch ball bearing drawer slides, 10 years ago, and they've sat on my shelf, and like I knew they were 16 inches, and for some reason I thought the cabinet was deeper than that, and for some reason I was like, well, I'll just make these drawers 16 1/4 inches deep for no other reason than I get an extra 1/4 inch of drawer depth because that matters. And I went to install them the other day and got the first one in and pushed it in, and it was sticking out 1/4 inch. The inside of the cabinet is exactly 16 inches. So, you know the old saying, measure twice, cut once. I just measured nonce, no times, and just guessed.
Yeah.
So that led to an interesting, went from a 15-minute install to, how am I going to fix this? And I decided I'm going to cut the back of that portion of the cabinet out because it really doesn't matter. And then I can get that extra 1/4 inch back. And of course, I can't use a jigsaw or any other tool that I have. So I had to run out and get one of those oscillating tools. So I've been thinking about, making that tool purchase anyway. So that pushed me over the edge and got the back cut out. And 2 hours later, drawers were installed. So problem solved.
What isolating tool did you buy?
I ended up just getting the Dremel version.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because that was what was in stock at the closest store to me.
Yeah.
So
Is that like one of the quick releases on the head, or is it like screwed on? Is
no, it's like a quick release tool attachment. So that was nice.
That would
worked
be nice.
well. Yeah. So I have that and got that.
Because that was a follow up question that I was going to ask when you had said that you got an oscillating tool. Is that one of because we did that on a podcast last year at some point where it was like, for a tool like that, do you just go to Northern or Harbor Freight and just grab the, $9.43 oscillating tool, knowing that you only get a limited lifespan out of it?
Right. Yeah, I had looked at like the Ryobi one because I have like Ryobi batteries and other tools, and that would have been like a cheap thing to do, but they didn't have it in stock at the closest Home Depot to me, and I didn't want to run all the way around and looking for it, so I got the Dremel version, and I had some grout that I had to remove and replace on some tile, and that looked like the easiest way to do it, so I'll have it for that job too, and whatever else I need it for, sanding, all the stuff.
See, I have the Ryobi one. That's what you said you had batteries for? Was the Ryobi one?
Yeah, I have Ryobi tools too. So
yeah, I have the Ryobi one. That was why I asked if it was a quick release head or a screw-on head, because the Ryobi one, that at least the one I have, is a screw-on head, which is kind of a pain in the butt. I mean, it takes 10 seconds to unscrew it and put a new head on, but it's just inconvenient because then you gotta find an Allen wrench that fits it. So
right. Now this is nice. It had like a toolless, like quick release, and just snap on the next head. And because I was trying to kind of figure out what was the best cutting head. Like they have the kind of like straight one, and then they have like the half circle deal. And I was switching back and forth trying to figure that out and decide what was best. And
so I guess what I took away from this, you put backs inside your cabinets.
Yeah, they were. It's so this cabinet, it's got 4 drawers on one side and then a door on the other side, and it's like all oak plywood, finished, stained, and everything. It's like you're never gonna see any of that. It's like I don't know why I did that. It's just at the time that was
John.
Right. So and then of course on the drawer side, you're never gonna see the interior of the cabinet, anyways, or the back of it, or any of that stuff. So. I mean,
I guess
it wasn't a big deal, but
I had built my built-ins for our office. Now that I say that, I did put backs in the cabinets that have just doors, but then we have a couple base cabinets that are just drawers only. And I'm like, I'm putting it back in there. Why? I mean, you're never going to see it, right? So,
but now I have to go back, take all the drawers out, and go back in and like fix all the walls and repaint them where I cut the back out. So they'll look nice, but
John Doyle's OCD strikes again.
Yep. And then texture them with a heavy texture, knockdown. So so I got the drawers done. I just got the one in panel and door installed yesterday. So down to the false drawer fronts, and we're there. So
are they just frame and panel too?
No, they're just slab drawer fronts. So, yeah. Originally I had planned on solid oak dovetailed drawers, and I had all that material, and I don't know what happened to that material. It got used a long time ago. So then it's like, okay, we're doing plywood, 1/2-inch plywood, Baltic birch drawers, and tongue and groove joinery, and boom, done. So, but they still look nice and they'll hold up. And so
I actually like the look of Baltic birch drawer boxes. If you're doing a false front on top of it, like Baltic birch has a nice clean look to it. The plies have a real even consistency.
Yeah, no voids and So nope, looks nice. And before I put the in panel on, one of the girls, I think when they were 3 or 4, had colored on the side of the cabinet that was getting covered up. So I let them sign their names to it, date it, put their ages, color on it, and then put the in panel on. So be a little
There we
time
go.
capsule for whoever takes that cabinet out. Probably the next owners, probably in a year from now. They're like, this is ugly. And
Who would put a cabinet here?
right. So, but yeah, so I'm just waiting on one of the drawer fronts that I was working on had a little crack in it. So I ordered some of that black Star Bond super glue. So I'm waiting for that to come in to fill in a couple knots and cracks and make it look nice.
I should have brought you mine.
Yeah, well, Amazon's faster.
Ouch, John.
No, I'm just
Live
kidding.
in the same town.
No, I wanted some of that.
Yeah.
I like that. I would use it a lot. So
yeah, I've actually found myself using it quite a bit. So I think it's a good like what $8 or $9 purchase. So did you buy any of the accelerator?
I didn't. I got time. I can wait. Just let it dry naturally.
All right.
So no, I'm sure we have some around here or whatever, but
yeah, we have several cans of accelerator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was I was trying to get this done quickly and ran into a few problems. So the drawers were one of the missizing the drawers was one of the problems, and then I was using those European cup style hinges, whatever, and they you have to drill the 35 millimeter holes to accept them in the back of the doors. So the other day I was searching through the shop because I know we have these 35 millimeter bits somewhere, and I found one in Mark's drawers in the Rockler brand metric bits. They have like a blue painted head. And I was like, oh, here it is. I grabbed it and drilled out the backs of the doors and went to put the hinge in, and it was like, this hole's too big. And I look it up. It was a 40 millimeter bit. So I just guessed. And it's like, bad guess again. Don't guess. So I made
measure nunts.
Yeah, measure nunts, and you'll probably be fine. So that was another thing of just I had to plug those holes, which wasn't a big deal. I just made some 40 millimeter wood plugs, plugged them, re-drilled the holes, and the hinge pretty much covers up the plugs, and they're on the back of the door, so it still looks great. But another extra 15-20 minutes of work on top of so but live and learn.
Okay.
So
what did you I have a couple of follow-up questions here for you. What did you use for a stain on there? I don't remember.
So I have, it's Gym Glow, I believe is the brand, and it's like a professional grade. I don't know what, it's like a resin based thing, so it dries within an hour, and it's just what I picked it up before I even worked here. I picked up like at Iowa Paint or some professional store. We had used this brand of stain, and I knew it dried really fast. So it's just whatever's in our the rest of our house, and it's called fruit wood, but it's not like the fruit wood that you see every other stain. It's kind of like a dark brown. So
because I thought it had a nice color to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's almost like a candlelight or something.
Yeah, it's kind of like a reddish, dark reddish brown. Yeah. So it matches the rest of the wood in our house. So,
but I thought it had I don't know how to describe it, I guess, like nice clarity to it, if that makes sense. Yeah. Because some stains end up looking, I don't know, gritty or dirty or something like that.
Yeah, no, it's like really like thin, and it goes on well and soaks in and dries super fast, and so it's been good to me. It's one of those finishing things that it's like, this worked once, and so I'm just going to do it for everything. Right. So, but
there's a lot to be said for that predictability.
Yeah.
You said it's the Gym Glow?
Gym Glow is, and that can is probably 13 to 15 years old. So I don't know.
I was going to say,
if the brand name has changed
for this,
because I got it from, I think, Iowa Paint, and I think it's not called Iowa Paint anymore. It's like Pittsburgh Paints or something else. So
it looks like Sherwin-Williams may carry it or may have carried it.
Okay.
I don't know if they do anymore.
Gem Glow, like GEM or GYM?
JIM. No.
Jim. I know, because when you first said that, I'm like, so who made this?
Jim.
Like in their backyard?
Jim. Jim Glow. No, GEMGLO is the brand. So
Okay.
I don't know. I'm looking at the can across the. But I have so I have like 2 cans of this, and I don't know if they make it anymore. So I'm just milking this can for all it's worth, and so
Just
I have the
keep
same.
adding thinner.
Yeah. So the same thing with the handles or the knobs and pulls for this cabinet is I bought these probably 10 years ago. They matched the ones in our kitchen that I did the 12 years ago. So I had enough to do all the drawers and doors. And then I was looking at the drawers, and they're bigger. They're like 32-inch wide drawers. And I was like, oh, it looks dumb with just one handle on there. So I'm going to put 2 on each drawer. So I needed to get 2 more of these handles, and they don't make them anymore. So I'm looking on eBay, and I found one on Amazon, and I got that. I ordered another one on some other random website that's like, I don't even know if this is legit, if they're going to take my credit card and start charging it to random websites. Who knows? So I ordered it from there. I got it, but it was it was satin nickel instead of antique nickel. So gotta try again, find another one. But I know it's out there. So
Fine. It's on the dark web somewhere.
right. Otherwise, I'll just borrow it off one of my kitchen drawers, and we're good to go. So, no, I'll figure it out. So it's been a challenge to stretch a project out over a decade. You're gonna run into those challenges. So I don't recommend it. But
So now, my last question for you, and this we brought up in our Thursday live Facebook Live shop update as kind of like a poll question, and I've seen people ask this or say this. And you used, like you said, you used cup hinges on the doors, and I asked you why, because I just don't get cup hinges, and yet, like when we had Nancy Hiller do the kitchen cabinets class. She says that when budget is tight, when she bids jobs, she always defaults to cup hinges. And you were talking about how easy cup hinges were. Mark Hopkins in the shop was all about cup hinges. And I did that. I think I did cup hinges on our last house when I was doing a kitchen cabinet remodel, which I never quite finished before we ended up selling the house, but that's another sad story. So I guess I just talk to me a little bit about the cup hinges.
Well, I think the thing of all those people, myself, Mark, and Nancy have in common is like working, like previously I worked in a kitchen cabinet industry, so kind of got used to those, and it's like all you have to do is drill the hole in the back to accept them. And usually if you're doing a lot of them, you have some sort of setup of like stops of like they're on each end. And this was a bigger door. So it's like I had one in the middle, one on each end. You drill the holes, you get set up at the drill press, drill them. They're easy. And then once you get them installed, you have the adjustability to adjust the door in and out, left and right, up and down, all the directions. So it's like you get it close and you can adjust it from there. Whereas like you put in a mortised butt hinge and it is where it is once you get it installed. Then you have to start, cutting down like the doors and to fit. Whereas you have all that adjustability after the fact. So,
right.
So once you kind of get used to it, it's the easy go-to thing. So it's kind of like the kitchen bathroom cabinet industry standard, I guess. So
no, and that definitely makes sense now when you say it that way, because I guess it's probably more of from my perspective. I hadn't used them all that often, so the whole process just felt weird to me from start to finish. I mean, I guess the adjustability is kind of nice. The other thing, though, is I feel like I end up defaulting more to that I prefer an inset door.
Right.
Whereas you can get cup style hinges for inset doors. I get
Yeah.
that. But
They get really weird, like
when
bulky
you're,
and
yeah,
when they're inset.
so your door is like a full overlay or partial
Yeah.
overlay or something like that.
So the kitchen cabinet type that we did before I worked here was like the European style, where it's frameless, doesn't have a face frame on it. It's just edged plywood. So it did full overlay doors with 1/8-inch gaps everywhere. So the way that I have the end panel on the cabinet on the one side, it sticks out, covers up the one end of the door. And then on the other end of the cabinet, I have a filler piece that sticks out. So it's flush with the drawers. So it kind of looks, the way it's set up, it looks like a inset doors and drawers, just because they're all flush. There's all 1/8-inch gaps all the way around, spacing in between. So it's it has that same look of like inset doors. It's just a lot easier. So I don't know. It's that European style. So
yeah.
But it's just one of those things. It's like you get used to doing it a certain way, and then that becomes the easiest way to do it for you, and you just keep doing it unless you're forced to do it another way. So
yeah,
I don't know if it's better. Or,
right. Which is funny that you say it like that, because I read, I don't know, some other woodworker. I think it was like Mike Pekovich from Fine Woodworking, where he was talking about some technique that he had, and somebody had asked a question, I think on his Instagram page, where it was like, how do you do this? And he's like, you kind of hate to say it, but you do it enough that you feel confident and you get the results that you want without feeling like you have to overthink it every time.
Right.
And then that becomes that's how it works out, is you just keep doing it.
Right. Yeah. And there's something too, that the 32 millimeter European style of cabinetry that's like, it's like the metric system. It's like once you learn it, it's kind of the easy way to do things. So
yeah,
I don't know, just very modular. And
well, we've been looking at having Vic Teslin come on the show, on the podcast. He's got a book coming out, and I know he's Canadian, so he's metricated.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting to have him give his deal on the metric system.
Yeah.
Because I know you have a small warm spot in your heart for the metric system, don't you, Logan?
I do. I love it. I think it's way more simple than the empirical system, and the entire world is on the metric system except the U.S.
and Burma and
Burma,
Africa.
Yeah, but yes, but it doesn't make sense.
Hey, if we don't know what we're doing, they can't know what we're doing, right?
That's exactly it.
It's like, we're going to do it our way.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. Thanks, John.
Yep.
Logan, your nightstands?
Yes. My nightstands are pretty much done. I guess what I have left to do is fit one drawer. So I made the drawers over this weekend. So here's one of said drawers with half blind dovetails on the front, through dovetails in the back. I didn't plug my grooves for my bottom because ain't nobody got time to do that. Who cares, really? But the half blinds turn out fantastic. I ended up using a trick on those that I picked up from Garrett Hack, I think, at the Mark Adams School, and I think it was Garrett that was saying that he always does half blind wasting with a mortising machine. I'm like, that makes perfect sense. And I know Phil said he had heard about this before and always thought it was a little gimmicky as far as like, is it really faster? Oh yeah. Like, it was way faster. And to be fair, it allowed me to use my mortising machine that I bought from Eric Loggy probably a year ago for the first time. So
all right.
I got it pulled out and set it up, and yeah, I was able to hog out all the waste. I'm a huge fan of when I cut half blind sockets like this, you can only cut at a 45-degree angle, right? You're cutting down to this baseline, and then you're cutting down to the baseline that would be down in this area.
Right.
So I always take I have a card scraper. It was a very thin card scraper. It's actually my Lee Nielsen card scraper, and I ground a sharp edge on it, and I use that and hammer it down through the kerf to create the rest of the kerf.
Right.
But that combined with the mortising machine made them go super, super quick.
Okay.
Yeah, so I didn't think it through really well, though. My order of operations should have been... I can dovetail fairly well, right? So I wasn't worried about getting the dovetails done on these drawers. I was more worried about doing these hand hole slots. And I wasn't really sure how that was going to go. They make so Infinity, Amana. A lot of people make bits to create this shape where it's basically you route out a half moon, then you come in and you can make this recess so you can get your fingers in there and stuff. They're like $80 or something for the bit, and I just didn't want to spend that. So I was trying to go cheap on it, trying to figure out and work through my head on how to do these. I should have done those first in case something went wrong, because I did all that work to do the dovetails.
Yes.
I don't know why I didn't. Like you always do the operation that is the most risky first. That way you don't screw up all that work you've already done.
Yeah.
But I didn't do that. But thankfully it worked out well. So to do those, I ended up using a combination of a flush trim bit. So I made a half moon template, and I routed out this front recess here, and then I was like, oh, no problem, I'll just come in with a rabbiting bit like this guy and run it along and create that basically recess behind it. Two problems with that. The first is I was looking for a rabbiting bit that had a bearing on the shank, and I could not find one. Okay? Could not find one. The second problem is, I was like, okay, not that big a deal. I throw it in the router table, and I'll just run that shank along my template. Okay? Two problems with that. The router bits spin fast enough that if you're using a wood template, you can actually burn little divots in your template, and that's no bueno. So, and second problem is this bearing will not fit in there because there's a little stem on top for the screw in the bearing. So basically I'm cutting this width here, and this guy gets in the way. So what I ended up doing, and I don't know where I put my bit that I modified for it. Anyways, might be my router table still. Anyways, I ended up grabbing a bit that I had. I had a like a Performax, like it was a Menards cheapest router bit you could get, which was perfect for modifying a router bit, right? I took the Performax router bit, and I took off the bearing and the screw, and I just ground it straight down. So it was a little adventure in grinding your bits down. Also, we have learned the name of John's dance club that he goes to is Grind Your Bits. So
Google it.
So I ground that guy down, and to avoid the template issue, the shank burning divots in the template, I had a couple of sheets. This is kind of my new favorite template material. I had some sheets of 1/8 inch, maybe a little bit thicker. It might be metric, but it's fiberglass sheets, like 1/8 inch, maybe 3/16 thick fiberglass sheeting. And it worked perfect for a template because the shank didn't do anything to it. I could follow it. It worked out phenomenal. So I was super happy. I did learn the fiberglass cuts perfectly fine on a table saw with a janky blade in there. You don't want to use your nice forest blade on it. I made the half moon in the template on my bandsaw, and my 1/4 inch bandsaw blade that was brand new 3 weeks ago is now shot. So
Yeah, that's
Gonna have
what I
to
was
keep
wondering
myself
when
up.
you had said that it was a fiberglass template. I'm
Yeah.
like, for real, fiberglass?
Yeah. Let me grab it quick so I can show you.
Well, wait.
Yep, I know. so this is my plywood template to use my pattern bit with.
Okay.
But then this is the fiberglass. Whoa, that looks big. So this is the fiberglass. So it literally is just maybe it is just 1/8 inch thick sheet. I roughed it on the bandsaw, and then I used my flush trim bit to trim it to this guy in the router table. I mean, it worked phenomenal. It did dull my bandsaw blade. Didn't do anything to the router bit. The carbide teeth on the router bit, or the carbide edges, cut through it no problem. So maybe if you had a carbide, I don't know if they make a 1/4 inch carbide blade for a bandsaw.
Not as far
they make
as I know.
carbide toothed ones, but
Yeah.
that would probably cut it just fine. So,
Okay.
so yeah, drawers are done. I have decided I don't necessarily like using drawer slides. I always size something wrong, and then I end up shimming something or having to rabbit edges of drawers to get them to fit with the slides and stuff. So in these nightstands, I'm using the little plastic L brackets, that go in the corners of the drawer opening. So they're like little Teflon slides, basically.
Oh, okay.
And I also grabbed, I don't know if this will show up there. There's this little guy here. It's a little nail-in like Teflon slide. So I put one on the bottom and two on top. So when it's in the opening, it doesn't sag when you pull it all the way out.
Oh, yeah.
So it's captive in there pretty well. I mean, there's a little play. Right now my house is at 35% humidity, so I'm hoping in the summer it doesn't expand to where it's super tight. But if it does, I can hand plane those little glide blocks down pretty easily.
Right.
So yeah, I just have one more drawer to fit in an opening, and then just some hand sanding. Like I said last week, I'm going to do the boiled linseed oil finish on these. So hand sand, in an evening this week, get some hot linseed oil on them, and those bad boys are going to be ready to hang up. So
Cool.
I am going to kind of kill my shaker soul a little bit in this, because I've decided I'm going to mount them on the wall with French cleats. And I had big plans on, doweling in the shaker cleats. Yes. I had big
cleats.
plans on, I had big plans on like holding the French cleat inside the case with like dowels from the inside and the top. So it was locked in there. And I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to pocket screw the French cleat in. So these beautiful mitered through dovetails. I'm just going to pocket screw a French cleat in the back and call it good. So
That's fine.
it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yep, it'll be fine.
I had an epiphany the other day, and it's like I realized what the difference between like regular cleats and French cleats are. Like, why do they call it French cleats? It's because it has interlocking tongues. French cleats.
Oh my God, John.
That's how it got its name. Probably. I don't know.
Probably.
Google it.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. So.
Yeah. Napoleon started that, I think.
Yeah.
Yep. One
Going back to your the handle shape on those drawers, I was kind of wondering how you did that, and I heard your whole process. Like, I almost would have been like tempted to clamp it to the table saw fence and just raise a dado blade up into it and to get that shape. But I don't know what the finish on the inside would be. It'd be you get lines probably.
Yeah, and the radius would have to match.
Right.
Or you just size it to match. And
right.
I think that would work perfectly well, John. I don't think there's any reason you couldn't. I would say, I actually started making that radius with a 4.5 inch hole saw. So that's a 4.5 inch radius or
diameter.
Yeah. 4.5 inch diameter circle in there. So I think a table saw would give you a much larger radius.
Yeah. Well, if you used a 6 inch dado
6-inch
blade.
dado.
It'd be close-ish, but
Yep.
I don't know.
Cool.
But yeah, that would work. I think that might make it kind of an interesting article doing like in drawer pulls.
Yeah, recessed
yeah.
drawer pulls.
Yeah, I
Recessed
haven't
drawer
seen that
pulls.
before, so that was a cool take
No,
on
I
it.
think it would definitely be a cool article.
Yeah, and I mean, and being completely transparent, that style is completely jacked from the Thomas Mosher design that I jacked for these nightstands. So it's my interpretation of them.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, but I mean, like a recessed pull is not anything new.
No, not at all. No,
So
nope. Well, and there's different ways. I was talking to Phil before I started doing these polls. There's different ways you could do those too. I mean, the most straightforward, I think, aside from ordering a router bit, is you just saw off the face of the drawer, route it out, and then glue it back on like a thick veneer, basically.
right.
And that would work, and that would actually give you the benefit of being able to hit a nice round over on this lip. You know what I mean? Because right now I'm kind of stuck just hand sanding a round over on there. I could round over the outside edge, but not the inside edge. So, but yeah, I think the pull itself works as long as it's not a super tight drawer. I don't think you could get away with that style pull if you had a very, very tight fit, because you don't have much room to get your fingers in there, at least with this style. I mean, I might be able to make it deeper with the proper router bit, but not going to order a $80 router bit for one use. So
Sure.
not when
No, I think it's pretty cool.
butcher a Menards bit to do the same thing. Yep.
So
how are your projects, Phil?
I got my radio cabinet rehab finished up last week, which I was looking through my notebook and I had started taking notes on this like in 2016, late 2015 or early 2016 is when I had started doing little sketches and drawings for how I wanted to do it. But I know that I've been thinking about this as a project for far longer. And I had, like John, I had bought hinges and knobs for this years and years and years ago. And the funny part was I was in a nickel finish hardware phase then. So I had like wraparound hinges that were nickel, and then the knobs were nickel as well. Except last year, and it's been almost exactly a year since I took pictures that I had started on this again just before we went into quarantine. And I dug out where I had kept the hardware for this, and I couldn't find the knobs. I'm like, these are the hinges. I know those are the hinges, but I don't know where the knobs are. And I found some knobs that were sort of similar to the ones that I thought I had bought, but they weren't nickel. They were kind of a darkened, almost like a oil rubbed bronze or something like that. Well, it turns out those were the knobs. They had just oxidized over the last 10 years.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, and it turns out that I think I like those knobs better on there, that they're darker colored instead of being like a shiny, even satin nickel on there. So I ended up swapping out the hinges. So I still have a set of nickel wraparound hinges that I can use for something else. So I got that done. It was pretty fun, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. I had to add a new back to the cabinet, and that involved doing some routing in the back legs and posts. And what's funny to me is I found out, I mean, it used to be a radio long ago, and then one of my uncles had pulled out the radio guts, put contact paper over the grill, turned it around, made a shelf out of redwood, I think, and it was a little bookcase. And I wanted to emphasize that grill again, so I had taken the contact paper off years ago and put walnut burl veneer on there and cut it in half to turn it into a door, and then added some trim details that weren't on there, and sanded off most of the kind of gross finish that was on there, and found out that the reason that it had a really dark walnutty sort of finish was that the front legs that were turned were walnut, but the rest of the case was, I don't know, some nondescript hardwood that was actually pretty light in color. So I ended up restaining everything and putting new finish on it, and changing the size of the shelf, and in putting on the walnut burl veneer. The veneer that I had was a raw veneer, so there was no backing on it, and that kind of veneer is pretty chippy. It's just not
Yeah.
fun to use necessarily, especially with all those cutouts on there.
Mhm.
So
Well,
when putting,
and I think with the burl too, because that's all end grain.
oh
You
yeah,
know what I mean? So you get weird areas that just they'll just break out no matter what.
right, yeah. So I had some sections that did that. Um, so my secret weapon on this, you guys were talking about the CA glue, the tinted CA glue, is I had gotten a set of wax filler sticks from my brother years ago. They're 3M, which 3M doesn't make those sticks anymore. So and it's really not important who the brand is, but I've really come to see the value of those. Sometimes they're called Beaumontage sticks,
Mhm.
in being able to, because when you're building a project, you're this close to it and you see every tiny flaw and you want to deal with them right away. And some are acceptable to deal with then, but I've kind of learned that I'll just wait till I'm all the way done, finish is all applied, and then I'll go back to some of these flaws and gaps and holes and just fill them with wax and be done with it. So, anyway, part of this kit also had some, at least I think they are, I think they're shellac burn-in sticks, and it had a little soldering gun kind of thing. So I was able to, once I had the doors all fit and set up, is I went through and found where those gaps were and fissures in the burl veneer, and filled those with a combination of either the wax sticks or those shellac burn-in sticks. And dang it, if that just didn't, like, if you look close, you can see where I filled, but for everyday use, you can't. And that was really
Yeah.
fun.
Nice. I've wanted to try those shellac sticks for a while. That's actually what uh, Thomas Mosier does on their stuff. The stuff that I've been filling with black CA glue, they fill it with a shellac stick.
Yeah.
Which I don't know that one's better or worse than the other. But the shellac sticks have been kind of interesting. I would like to play with those a little bit, I think, at some point.
So that was a fun process to, like when I'm building a project on my own, I build in my own errors to it, but you kind of know that they're there because it happens as you're doing it. But with this cabinet, there were just some things where you're just dealing with the piece as it is. And you have to either decide that you're going to fix it and it's going to take more work, or you're going to leave it and you just adapt to it. I didn't realize this until I had refinished it and was trying to reassemble the case, because it's basically like a post and panel ends, and then has a bottom panel that's doweled into the legs, and then the top is just pocket screwed on with a pre-Craig version of pocket screws. And when I did that, I realized that the case isn't square front to back. So the front actually tapers in a little bit. And it's like, do I redo the whole bottom to try and fix that? Or because I have tight joints, just leave it as is and deal with it? And I just left it because it didn't affect anything really. There's nothing other than the adjustable shelf that I put in that you just kind of cut to fit that sort of trapezoid shape.
Yeah.
Which, wasn't difficult to do. It's just, some sanding and planing to get it to fit that space well. But otherwise, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Where the grill was on the backside, I used plexiglass panels that I hit with my power sander with a 120 grit disc, and it gives it a frosted look to it. So
Nice.
So anyway, yeah, I think it turned out
So
really cool. I'm going to end up using it as a
you've-
nightstand.
Since you finished early, what are you working on now then?
Well, I think I was telling you guys, I kind of got a little buzz on finishing something, and I think there's I don't know, maybe because yours has hung around almost as long as mine, John. Like, you realize that, oh, it really didn't take that much to finish this, and I had just kind of psyched myself out that it was going to be harder than it was.
Right.
So I have a gentleman's dresser that we did for the TV show a few seasons ago, and it was kind of all dummy props. Well, I guess it was the one we actually built for the show, but just never quite finished.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's been sitting in my shop for probably 2 years or 2.5 years, and it just needs to get out of there.
Yeah.
And I thought that there was more work that had to be done on it, but it's really just sanding and finishing, because I think we hung the doors so they all fit. So I started in on that right away while I had this confidence and excitement over getting something done, that I was just going to do the next thing that was relatively easy. So
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, you mentioned like having that like kind of buzz of motivation of getting something done. That's kind of how starting back on this cabinet worked for me. We just been stuck inside with this cold weather and not being able to work out in the shop or get out and do anything lately. So it was like I started out like, oh, I'm gonna fix this piece of trim that was hanging off, and then now I'm gonna fix this door, and then I'm gonna fix this little thing. And then like the buzz of like getting something done, it's like, oh well, let's keep finishing things. And so and then it's nice too, like you were talking about the gentleman's dresser, getting that done, and just it's nice having it done, but then having that space back in your shop or garage or wherever you're working, it's like, oh, that took up a lot of space. Now I have more room to work until you fill it with something else that you start and don't finish. So, but yeah, it's kind of a little bit of a buzz and motivation to work on the next thing and keep it going.
yeah, kind of like a snowball rolling down a hill, you just kind of gathers a little bit of momentum and start looking for, and I have enough stuff, we've talked about this before on the podcast, where we have, or at least I do, I think you guys have said that too, where you have projects that we've rescued from here or started before, and other stuff just gets in the way. That's how life works. But trying to be a little bit more deliberate on finishing those projects right away without having them take up not only shop space but kind of head space too, of just constantly seeing them and knowing that you should do it. So it's either move them on to somebody else or to the burn pile or get them done.
Right. Yeah. But then it's like you get all these projects done and your family sees them. You start strutting around. You start to raise the bar a little bit. So then you got to, back it off a little bit and lower expectations again. So.
That's what my wife said when I told her. I was like, oh yeah, I'm finishing these nightstands by the 20th. And she's like, why? And I was like, oh, we kind of set goals to finish some projects that we started. She's like, does that mean you're going to finish our office cabinets? I was like, oh man.
So is that your next one?
Yes, unfortunately. Which, like you guys said, I mean, the cabinets are all done. I just got to make a couple doors. I even have the drawers all made. I just have to mount them and I got to make some drawer and door faces. That's it. I mean, it's like done. I mean, they are painted built in, so I have some like caulking and touch up paint to do. It'll take me a weekend if I put my mind to it.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. John, you got another project that you're going to work on after this?
Oh, I don't know specifically. I guess there's still stuff around the house that I need to work on and dig through the piles in my garage, I guess. Once it warms up a little bit, go out there and see what needs to get done.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Cool.
He's not committing to anything, Phil.
Yeah, right. I'm non-committal.
He's just gonna sneak up on it.
Set the bar low and then jump over it.
Yep.
All right. You want to set a date for this next one?
Oh gosh. my cabinets. All right,
Yeah.
let's go. We got February 20th. Let's go.
You want to do like April, mid-April, tax day?
No, I was going earlier than that.
You were?
I was gonna go let's go March 20th.
March 20th? All right, I'm in.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. I'll figure something else out and jump in last minute.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, there you go. For anybody else who's listening, watching the show on our YouTube channel, we'd love to hear what projects you have that you would like to finish, and maybe join us on our next deadline challenge here for March the 20th. We'll have photos of our projects on our show notes page. You can find that at woodsmith.com/podcasts and look for the show notes page there. You can also find links to all the other podcasts that we've had. Otherwise, you can subscribe to the podcast in all the usual podcast subscribing ways. Otherwise, we'll see you again next time on the Shop Notes podcast. Bye, everybody.
This episode of Shop Notes Podcast is brought to you by Woodsmith Plans. You'll find nearly 1,000 plans covering everything that you'd want to build. From furniture projects to gift projects, kitchen accessories, workshop projects, and jigs and more. Find your next project at woodsmithplans.com.